So I have a slightly different approach than my colleagues. Let's imagine together. So 2 images. The first image, you're using ChatGPT. It hallucinates an answer. You roll your eyes. You rewrite the prompt. And that's it. 5 minutes of mild annoyance and maybe a laugh at dinner. Second image, a humanoid robot in your kitchen. You ask it to bring a cup of coffee, and then it spills it on your carpet. Not every time, maybe 1 out of 10. How long do you keep that robot in your house? Data asymmetry is the most important thing happening in physical AI right now. And very few people in the rooms where capital moves, where rules get written, like this one, are paying attention to it. I have been working in this space for close to a decade, well before it was called physical AI. And I want to use the next few minutes to make a single argument. In physical AI, reliability is the last moat. Everything else is commoditizing. And if you walk out of this room believing anything I say today, let it be that. Let's start with the prices. A Chinese research-grade humanoid, the Uni3 G1, retails right now for about $4,900, less than a high-end road bike. 5 years ago, a research-grade humanoid cost $500,000. In 2026, you can order one right to your doorstep for a price of a sofa. Now let's look at capital. Figure AI, a 3-year-old humanoid company, is raising money at $39 billion valuation this spring. Also, Tesla has committed roughly $20 billion in capital expenditure for Optimus. Agility Robotics has announced that they have Digit, their humanoid, have moved over 100,000 totes in a real warehouse. The money's there, the hardware is there, and the real-world pilots are landing. Now let's look at the models. Foundation models for robotics are improving quickly across the board. The gap between frontier and open source is measured in quarters, not years. Every large lab is publishing, every hyperscaler is hiring for it. If you think your physical AI investment has a defensible software moat because of the model, I would gently suggest you check your assumptions. Hardware is commoditizing, models are catching up, capital is abundant, talent is mobile. Every input to physical AI is getting cheaper, more available, and more generic. Except one, reliability. Reliability is not commoditizing. It is getting harder because the bar for what counts as useful is raising faster than the underlying systems can keep up with. Here is the number that every investor and every policymaker in this room should write down somewhere. They will see it every day. 99.9%. That is the bar. Not aspirational, but operational. If you run a picking system doing 600 picks per hour across a 16-hour shift, and you accept that maybe a human has to step in to help every couple hours, then you need 99.9% reliability. Anything below that is not automation. It is expensive employment for the operator that cleans up after the robot. Most of the physical AI demos that you have been watching, the humanoid videos that went viral in the last 6 months, are somewhere between 90 to 95% reliability. And they are reliable in a narrow controlled task. Elon Musk himself has said that Optimus exists primarily to learn, not yet to produce. The gap between 95 and 99.9% sounds small, but it is not. It is a factor of 50 in error rate. A different order of engineering, a different order of data, different hardware tolerance. not a tuning exercise, and definitely not just a firmware update. It is a chasm that separates a company that will matter in 10 years from a company that will become a footnote. In physical AI, a 90% is not close to 99.9%. It is on the wrong side of that chasm. And that chasm is the last moat. And here is why this matters right now. The physical AI pilots signed in the last few years are coming up for renewal, and the decisions made in warehouse management across Europe and the US in the next 12 months will pick the winners and lock in the losers for the next decade. Capital committed in this window either backs companies that can cross that chasm or pays for pilots that quietly die. Once that capital is committed, it does not come back. I also want to tell you something that I got wrong. 5 years ago, I would have said completely the opposite, that the hardest part in this industry was the model, that the team with the smartest AI would win. That flexibility and generalism were the prize at that time, but I was totally wrong. The team that wins, in my experience, is the team that kept iterating on one specific failure mode for 3 years, while everyone else was chasing the next demo. I did not know that when I started, but I know it now. And this talk is in part what I wish somebody had told me before. Let me make it concrete. Imagine an Amazon package on a conveyor belt. Inside that package, a bottle of shampoo. It's not full, not empty, somewhere in the middle, and the cap is partly loose. A human worker picks 800 of these an hour without thinking. They know without being told that the bottle has to be gripped just tight enough to hold it, not with enough pressure to crush it. They know a soft object is not a rigid one, right? They know also how to recover when the object shifts in their hand. A general purpose robot, the kind you see in the viral videos, crushes that bottle, or drops it, or even refuses to pick it up entirely because the weight distribution confuses the model. Of course, not every time, maybe 3, 5, 7 times out of 100. In a research lab, that is a fascinating edge case. But in a fulfillment center running 16 hours a day, 6 days a week, that is shampoo on the floor, a warehouse manager who stops trusting the system, and a pilot that quietly dies after a few months. The real work in physical AI is not happening in humanoids doing backflips. It is happening in specialist systems, in warehouses that look like metal sheds an hour outside of the nearest city, solving one hard problem until it crosses the 99.9% line. One company I know very well has spent years on a narrow, boring version of exactly this kind of problem. We work with, for example, Zalando or Adidas at scale, picking the messy variable inventory that general systems just give up on. There is no viral video of this, but do you know what there is? There is a shift supervisor who stopped noticing the robot because it just works. That is the tell. That is what the mode looks like from the outside, when the robot stops being interesting. When the warehouse manager stops pointing at it, that boring silence is the most expensive competitive advantage in this industry. A humanoid doing a backflip on YouTube is a trailer for a movie that has not been made yet. The 1 or 2 operating in real warehouses are still proving the movie is worth making, for sure. Both are really exciting, but neither has crossed the patience line yet. This is the pattern. Find a hard problem in a bounded domain, cross the chasm there, and then expand from there. The companies that will matter in physical AI over the next 10 years are the ones that found that beachhead and defended it until nobody else could keep up with reliability, not the ones with the broadest promises. Now the part that I think is most useful for people in this room. For the investors. Most physical AI capital right now is chasing two things: drama and generalism. In my view, both are mistakes. If the hardware advantage is closing, if the model advantage is closing, then the bet is not on the most ambitious system. The bet is on the team that has crossed 99.9% in some narrow and glamorous domain with real customers paying real money. The due diligence question is not, oh, how smart is your model? No, it is, what is the reliability rate in a real deployment? And what does it cost to move it 1 percentage point higher? If a team cannot answer that with a number and a curve, they do not have a product, they have an ambition. The next wave of winners in this sector will not be viral demo companies. They will be the companies that you have never heard of, building what I call the 99+% layer. For the policymakers, physical AI regulation is about to get very interesting very quickly. The EU AI Act becomes fully applicable this August, 4 months from now, and most of the physical AI conversations in Brussels, Washington, Geneva is still importing its intuitions from the chatbot debate. The failure modes are not the same. A hallucinated paragraph is a communication problem. A robot that drops a pallet is a safety problem, an insurance problem, and a liability problem. If physical AI rules are written out of GPT-era reflexes, they will end up too loose where the physical risk is high. The next 12 months of rulemaking will set the defaults for the next decade. It is worth slowing down and getting those defaults right. I want to leave you with one thought and one small ask. The small ask first. When you hear the next humanoid pitch this quarter, ask one question. What is the reliability curve and what does it cost to move it 1 percentage point higher? If they cannot answer, then you have your answer. The thought. The most interesting question in physical AI is not how intelligent the robot is, it is how patient the world is with it. You are patient with ChatGPT because the cost of a mistake is 5 seconds of your time. You will not be patient with a robot, not in your home, not in your factory, not in your warehouse. Because when a robot is wrong, the cost shows up in real money, real carpets, and real shampoo bottles on the floor. The race in this industry is not a race to the smartest robot. It's a race to the first robot in each vertical that crosses the patience line. The one that makes fewer mistakes than the human it replaced. Hardware will keep getting cheaper, models will keep getting better, and capital will keep flowing. None of that is a moat. The last moat, the one very few people in this industry are paying attention to, is the hard-earned reliability of a system that has been beaten into shape by a real operation. And here's the part I want you to hold on to. When physical AI actually arrives in an application, it will not feel magical. It will feel quiet. Because the real sign that a robot has become productive is that no one in the warehouse talks about it anymore. Thank you.
Thank you so much.